us. Today's workshop, as Yasmin stated, is about capability statements. So during this workshop, we'll talk about and try to help you understand that there are different types of capability statements. They're used in different scenarios, and also get you to understand what data should be incorporated in the capability statement. You will also understand when and how to use the different statements. And hopefully at the end of this session, you'll have a better idea how to develop a dynamic capability statement. Also, if you are new to local, state, or federal government, you have never developed a capability statement, your counselor, if you are a PTAC client, will be able to look at your draft copy of the capability statement and make any recommendations. Okay, as Yasmin said, our mission statement is to increase contracting activity between small, large, and prime government contractors on the local, state, and federal level. Some of the items that we specialize in are government marketing strategies, government registrations, GSA schedule. We do not do the schedule for you, but we have technical expertise consultants that can help you to put together a nice GSA schedule. We also help with bid and proposal assistance, pre and post award audits, business assessment, marketing strategies, and workshops and training. Here are some of the other services that we do provide. One of our new classes and trainings that we have just put together is the SBIR, STTR proposal training. So if you're interested in that, we have a lot of nice information on our website, and we are also forming training for that particular program. Our funding agreement is through DLA, Department of Defense, the Maryland Department of Labor, Licensing and Regulation, and the University of Maryland. So let's get started. There are two basic types of capability statements. One is short, which is generally a 1-page or 2-page. The other one is a little longer, where you're in front of your audience and they've asked you or invited you in to give them a little more information on what it is your company can do. Both should be presenting information in a simplified style where your customer can understand exactly what you have to offer and your expertise. So the short version is limited to a maximum of 1 sheet, but can be printed on both sides. The longer version may be a multitude-page format, anywhere from 4 to 8 pages. You want to make sure that it's readable and is understandable, and you don't want the fonts to be too large or too small. So I generally recommend that you may want to consider doing a 10 or 12 font presentation. You want your data to be understandable and incorporated into the capability statement. Contracting officers, prime contractors, are not going to try and figure out what you're trying to say or what your company can do or what it cannot do. So this is your opportunity to demonstrate to them that you have the capabilities of meeting the requirements. Also, you want to understand when and how to use the different statements. You may use some statements as just a 1-page, may just be for an icebreaker, where you're getting in front of the contracting officer who is going to pass your capability statement on to the project manager. You want to develop a dynamic capability statement, and it needs to be a changeable document, because you may end up with 5 or 6 different capability statements. And of course, that's going to depend on the audience that's reading your statement. For instance, if you're looking for subcontracting opportunities, you want to address your capability statement so that your prime contractor will be willing to give you a chance to hopefully bid on a contract. But that prime has to know that you are capable of presenting. Sometimes they may not meet you. They may just ask for you to email the capability statement to them. So you want to be crystal clear of your expertise and what you have to offer. And make sure that your capability statement is adjusted to address the interests of your target audience. Do we have any questions, Yasmin?
No questions as yet. Just a reminder to everybody who's joined us, please type out your questions on the chat box and we'll try to get through as many as we can during this hour. Thank you.
Okay, so what is the purpose of your capability statement? It is to promote your company. You may want to think of your capability statement as a resume of your company. What do you do? What do you have to offer? Your past performance. What is your experience? So it is a very, very, very important document. It details what the company and staff are capable of providing. It highlights the experience, expertise, resources, products, services offered. Remember and keep in mind, if you are submitting your capability statement to a contracting officer, it's going to go to the contracting officer, but it may end up in the hands of the project manager, who will be the one that really will have a voice in whether your company is invited back into, say, for instance, an oral demonstration. So you want to make it crystal clear and you want to make it really strong. Data requirements. Your company overview, which is generally, this is page 7, refers to if you're submitting a technical proposal as part of your solicitation. That generally will be in page 7 of your technical proposal. But you can also incorporate information from your capability statement to go into your proposal. You want to make sure that your experience and your stability is very, very strong. Here you may want to just briefly mention some of your past performance, or you may want to have a reference from a contracting officer to say that your company is stable. You may have completed a contract on time and within budget. What are your personal strengths? What is the related past performance as it relates to that particular agency and as it relates to the particular contract, or as it relates to you as a teaming partner? You want to have good references. Make sure that you contact the person that you are going to put down as a reference so that that contracting officer, when they do contact your references will not be caught off guard and will not be able to give you a good reference. Your classification codes and data are very, very important. Here we're talking about your classifications, whether you're a small business, whether you're a large business, whether you're a hub zone. And then what makes you different? How are you different? How do you stand out from your competition? Did you save the government money? Perhaps the government's budget may be estimated at $100,000 for a contract, but you were able to do it for $85,000. So you were able to save the government $15,000. This makes your company different. Next is your contact information. Please, please make sure that it is up to date. Make sure that the contracting officer has a good email for you. Your phone number is correct. You'd be surprised. 1 digit off from your cell number and the contracting officer cannot reach you, they are going to go to the next person. Make sure all of those items are correct on your capability statement. Your company overview. When writing your company overview, remember to include 4 to 7 short, punchy sentences about what the company does and what the company does best. So sit down before you submit your capability statement and think about these things, but keep it to the point. First, talk about the company, not the owner. Use active verbs. Do not talk about missions, visions, or goals. Remember, the agencies and the government want to know what you can do for them. Then talk about the president or the owner. The president may be a service-disabled veteran, or the president may have a certain level of clearance that's going to make you attractive. Or you may want to talk about how the company got started, but keep it short. 2 to 4 sentences maximum. Experience and stability. Tailor the statement to the agency mission or specific opportunity. So I always suggest in my counseling sessions that you know exactly the mission statement of the agency that you want to do business with. That's very, very key. So you're going to end up with 4 or 5 different capability statements, again, depending on your audience. Short sentence, you want to say short statements, relating to the company's core competencies, to the agency's specific needs, followed by keyword and heavy bullet points. So make sure that you want to say your strong points with bullets. That way you're separating your sentences. This is how the contracting officers generally going to look for. They're going to look for those strong bullets. They're going to look for what sets you apart. They're going to look for how many years you have experience. They're going to look for if you have experience with their agency. Next, what does the company do well? Does it provide customer benefits? Is it hard for competitors to imitate? So you want to set yourself apart from your competitors, especially if you're in the IT field, because there are a lot of different IT companies. So you're going to have to state what makes your company different. Maybe you have more experience in the particular agency or with that agency. So you have more to offer because you're familiar with it. And it is also a big plus if you have past experience in that particular agency. It makes it a lot easier for the contracting officer to do business with you. Next, which is very, very important, how is the company responsive and responsible? How do you respond if the contracting officer wants you to add additional work to your statement of work? Are you responsible? Will you be able to get the personnel for that extra task? And how fast can you get the personnel? Can the company deliver what the agency is looking for in the required quantities and required time frame? So if the contracting officer is saying tomorrow, we need you to have a new project manager on the contract, will you be able to do that? Do you have resumes of folks that you can call on right away to fill in a gap? These are all very, very important. And you want to include equipment or facilities that are available to meet the requirements. Equipment is very, very important. The contracting officer or the project manager is not going to wait until you buy the equipment. They generally want the equipment on hand so that they feel comfortable that you can start working on a contract for the period that they're specifying. Your personnel strength. Who is your staff? What does your staff bring to the table? What kind of experience does your staff have? What are their special capabilities? What sets them apart from the competition? List any special training, education, experience, awards, anything that demonstrate your personnel's abilities and why they are better than the rest. Now, I know this is a lot of information, especially to put on a one-page capability statement. But remember, you can use the front and the back if you need to put additional information on your capability statement. Any questions, Yasmin?
Yes, we do have one question from
Okay.
Tawanda, and she asks, if the owner is the sole person for the company and their experience is the company's past performance, how do you manage that?
It's the company's past performance, so you're one person.
Yes.
I certainly would put down my work experience. And if that's the case, then maybe you want to just start looking for subcontracting opportunities to get your foot in the door. So, you know, you have your experience from your career, and you're bringing that to the table.
Okay, another question. This one is from Joyce.
Uh-huh.
Does personal strengths refer to the person or the firm?
Personal strength.
Yes.
Okay, I would say both. I would say both because they're going to look at when you submit your resume along with the proposal, they're going to look for the experience that personnel is bringing and the company is bringing to the table. So I would say both.
Okay, she has a follow-up question. Could you expand on stability? You mentioned stability. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, you're going to have to demonstrate that you had the stability, that you were awarded a contract, you completed the contract, and it was done in a satisfactory manner. You did not stop in the middle of the contract and say, I can't do this because I don't have the equipment. So you got to be able to demonstrate, I finished a contract with Anne Arundel County. We finished on time. We had the equipment and we had the personnel. And maybe in some cases you complete the contract before schedule. So stability is to me demonstrating that you have the personnel, the management staff, financially, you're stable to complete the contract. Because financially, if you're unstable and the government does not pay you for 30 or 45 days, you have to have the funds to make sure that that contract is completed. That's stability.
Okay, we have one more question. This one is from Kenny. How likely is it to get awarded a contract if you only have one person with a great deal of experience in the company?
With a great deal of experience?
Yeah, if there's only one person in the company that has the experience, how likely is it to get awarded a contract?
Well, that actually depends on the agency. And it also depends on if it's a simplified acquisition, then likely it's a good possibility. If it's $1 million contract, then it's not. So it's really going to depend on the contract type, the monetary amount of the contract, and the period of performance.
Okay, that's all the questions for now. Thanks.
Okay. Related past performance, so very important. How does the company's past and or current performance relate to the current opportunity? You've got to demonstrate past performance. I know a lot of times I hear where it becomes a catch-22. If that's the case, then I say start small. Start with your local and state government to build up your past performance. Don't forget your commercial clients. They are also considered when it comes to past performance. You want to also expand on your effort and your complexities of the agency. Some agencies only want companies that have a certain level of facility clearance. Some agencies, if it's a set aside, For service disabled veterans, then it's a set aside. Again, if it's 8A, then you have to demonstrate as an 8A company that you have the ability to perform a contract. Read the solicitation requirements very, very carefully and gear your past performance in accordance with Section M, which is your evaluation criteria. When we talk about past performance, you want to make sure that your past performance is no older than 3 to 5 years. So for instance, you want to talk about past performance. You may want to say, well, we completed a contract in 2018 for NSA. Here's the contract number. This was the amount. This was the period of performance. And we finished that contract on time and within budget. And if you're exceptional, you may say the contracting officer awarded us an amendment for additional work onto an existing contract. That's really a nice key and a nice past performance to put on your capability statement. You also want to put, while I'm thinking about this, put your capability statement on your website. That way, if there's an opportunity and your name is mentioned as a possible person to make an award to, a contracting officer can go to your website and look at your capability statement. Okay. Current means contractor is performing a contract now. So if you are putting on your capability statement, your contract past performance with NSA, you should simply say contract was awarded 1st of January 2019 and it is ongoing. That will let the contracting officer know that you are still performing on contract. Parent has greater impact in performance assessment. It really does. Most contracting officers don't want to know about past performance 20 years ago or 10 or 15 years ago. They want to know, what have you done lately and was it presented and completed? Again, on time and within budget. List the customers that you have done similar work for. So you may be presenting a capability statement to Aberdeen Proving Ground, but you've also done similar work for the Department of the Navy. So you want to definitely demonstrate that. All right. So you want to also be able to relate your past performance again on, if it's a federal contract, you want to list your local, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, or the state of Maryland. Again, and you also want to list your commercial contracts. So don't forget those items. And sometimes you can even include work that you do in the community to show that you are demonstrating that you had that experience. If past projects do not relate to the target audience needs, do not list it. Contracting officer is not interested in if it doesn't relate to their mission and what they are trying to accomplish. If possible, include specific contracts, details, and contact information for immediate references. And again, you want to make sure those references are up to date with their phone, email, and a point of contact that the contracting officer can contact. Make sure that you do have the personnel experience and past performance. This is useful for a startup company, again, or an expanding company that's going into a whole nother area. So if you are a startup, it will not hurt to put down your past experience that you have performed as an employee. Now, the contracting officer may come back and say, we really want to know what the company experience is. Then you could do a little justification and say, This is experience I've worked with while I was at Booz Allen or while I was at Lockheed Martin. I was in charge of a big project, which qualifies me to do the work that this contract is being asked for me to do. Questions, Jasmine?
You've pretty much answered them, which was related to can you use past performance at other businesses? But there is one saying, is it okay to mention if you were a subcontractor, to mention the client you worked for?
Ooh, that's a little sticky one. I could say yes and I could say no. Sometimes if you're a subcontractor, what I would do if I were you, I would go to the prime, whoever your prime is, and ask the prime, is it okay for you to do that? Because you're the sub, so you're really working for the prime. So I think the best answer for that is to go back to the prime and get the prime's permission to do that.
Okay, that's the only question. Thanks.
Okay. Again, your references, you want to select those very, very carefully. Select someone that's going to give you a good report, someone that remembers your company, someone that remembers how well your company performed, someone that will remember the employees that you had on the contract, that they were professional, they were courteous, they came to work on time, and they completed the job. Cite, again, the contact information should include the name, telephone number, and a good email address. Know that the references are able and willing to testify to the quality of the product or service your company provides. So how do you know that? Before you submit that name to the contracting officer, you're going to contact the reference and you're going to say simply, Joe, you remember how well we did on your contract. Please make sure when I'm going after a new contract with the Department of Navy, I'm going to use this contract as a reference. So you want to make sure Joe remembers you. If possible, include some testimonials. Government folks love to read those. Too many may seem to be an effort to offset weaknesses, so you only really want one or two. Or that the section is only scanned, not closely reviewed. So if you don't want to put too much emphasis on the testimony, you want to put more emphasis on your past experience and how you completed the contract and what you're bringing to the table today. All right, your classifications and codes, these should be included on your capability statement. They're very, very important because if a procurement is being set aside, say for instance, for a hub zone, and you want to make sure that's on your capability statement and you're a hub zone company. So you want to include these different codes, your DUNS, your CAGE, your PSC, which is a product service code, your NAICS code. If you have a GSA schedule or any kind of contract and vehicle, is going to be helpful. What level of security clearance do you have? What certifications and registrations do you have? Are you woman-owned? Are you 8A? Are you an SDVOSB? All of those are important. Do you have any teaming agreements? Have you teamed with Services Able Vet? Have you teamed with a woman-owned representative or company? Have you teamed with an 8A? Do you accept credit and purchase cards, which makes it a lot easier for simplified acquisitions for a government agency to put an award to your company? I know a lot of times companies do not want to get these items because they are incurring a monthly cost without having a contract. But there again, it may become a catch-22. You may not get the award because you don't have you accept a purchase card. So you want to make sure that you are well prepared to be able to do business with the government. Again, we talked about contact information. This is a list of items that you want to have: your name, your mailing address, your physical address, the location of your company, your telephone number, email address, website. And you want to include directions to your office. Makes it so much easier if you have a meeting or if you have the contracting officer that's going to come and do a tour of your office. You want to make it as easy for them as possible. Any questions, Yasmin?
Yes, we have a couple.
Okay.
Okay, in regards to subcontracting work, should we list the prime as a commercial customer?
That's a good question. I would list them as just as a prime. You may want to say, well, I was a subcontractor with SRA. I was first or second tier subcontractor. And then if you're second or third tier, you may want to list the first tier. So it gets a little tricky. I would say a lot of that does depend on your audience and who you're submitting your capability statement to. Always get permission, though, to list your prime or your first tier. You can just simply say, I am going after a government contract. I want to be able to list my past experience working as a sub under your company and get their permission and get it in writing too.
Okay, thanks. We have a question from Dawn. She says, regarding the contact information, what if you only have a home office?
Well, I mean, your office is in your home, so you need to list that. I know a lot of times people don't feel comfortable listing their home because, for instance, you don't know who's going to see your capability statement. So it's a decision that you have to make, whether it's a good idea to list your home as your home office. A lot of times people do it and they simply say suite A or suite B or suite C, something that it doesn't exactly sound like it's your home.
Okay, and we have a question from Kenny. What is a PSC code?
Product service code is also another way of the government knowing what you have to offer, similar to your next code, but it's called a product service code. It can be listed on your capability statement, on your website, just to make it clear what you are offering and what you have to offer.
Okay, and one last question. This one's from Michelle. Can a nonprofit obtain an 8A certificate?
Can a nonprofit obtain an 8A?
Yep.
Oh, that's a tricky one. I don't believe so, but what I would highly recommend for that type of question or an answer is from our sister organization, the Small Business Development Center, who help companies get their 8A certification. I don't know exactly what the nonprofit does, but it may be worth the nonprofit, if they really want to do business and get the 8A, is to change the structure and make it an LLC. That might be a lot simpler. So you have two different entities. One is a for-profit and then one is for a not-for-profit. That may be your better option, especially if you're going after the 8A program.
That's it for now. Thanks.
Okay. All right. When assembling a capability statement, what is the most important question you need to ask yourself? The most important question you want to ask is, who is my audience? That's the key. How is this going to be structured to the audience that I want to get a contract from? So the answer to this, and it's always ongoing. Again, you're going to have more than one capability statement, But when you're assembling a capability statement, you've got to keep in mind your customer, the mission statement of your customer, and what can I do for my customer? On that capability statement, you've got to show past performance to that customer that you have the experience to do what they're asking you for. So here, the number one answer is, who is my customer when you are assembling a capability statement? How do you decide which statement to use? That's another good question. And there are many schools of thought on this when it comes to capability statement. And it depends on how many pages your capability statement should include. So if you're doing a 1 or 2 page, which I call an icebreaker, where you're just getting your foot in the door with hopes that you will get a follow-up meeting, then you're going to put in your personnel, your management, the important key factors we talked about, the past performance, how large the contract was that you just completed. That's your icebreaker. That's a 1 or 2 page capability statement. And then you're going to think about the contract and opportunity that you're going after. And then the next follow-up capability statement could be for when you are actually in front of your customer. You may make it 3 or 4 page just to expand on a little more about your experience, your personnel, your equipment. Again, what's going to set you apart from your competitor. Or it may be a sole source contract, which meaning they're only interested in negotiating with you. You want to make it crystal clear. Or they may want to make an award based on your capabilities without discussions. So they're not going to come back to you and negotiate. They're going to make an award without discussion. So that's why it's important that your capability statement be very crystal clear that you can perform the work. Any questions, Yasmin?
It was just a follow-up from the previous slide about addresses. Is it okay to use a post office box for an address, or will that raise red flags?
Well,
maybe this is for people who don't have an actual
office
location, which actually, thinking about it, bearing in mind what's going on right now, a lot of people will not be renting offices in the future. They'll be working from home because of the virus.
Yes.
So that's an interesting question.
Yes.
So it's okay to use a post office box?
Well, in some cases, companies do not want to give out, if you're a one-person operation and maybe you live alone, you don't want to give out your street address. But if you're going, for instance, at a certification where you're going to have someone from the agency come out and review your office, do you really think they want to go to a P.O. box? Or do they really want to come out and see your office? They want to see your office space. They want to know that you had the proper equipment to complete the job. So I would just shop around for nice, inexpensive rental space that's not within your home. But make sure that you have a contract that's going to support that cost, because that can be out of cost expense that you are not capable of paying every month. So you don't want something that's very expensive, but you want something that's going to satisfy your customer in case your customer wants to come in for a face-to-face meeting or to actually come in and investigate where your office is. Especially if you're going after an 8A program. You may have someone from SBA that even after you get the 8A, want to once a year come in and look at your space and your facility. So those things are very, very important, and keep all of those in mind, especially when you're just putting down that you have a P.O. box. that there may be someone from the contracting officer that wants to come out and really review an office. So you have to just shop around and suit what suits you and what you're comfortable with.
Okay, that's the only question for now. Thanks.
Okay. All right. This is a great chart to have to keep with you when you're thinking about doing a capability statement. And when you use a brochure, one page or multiple page, we kind of talked about this a little bit. If you are doing a trade show, if the folks at the trade show may not be interested in a capability statement, they may just be interested in a brochure or your website. So make sure, again, this chart really does address your particular audience and what should be included on the capability statement. Also, again, keep in mind that you have counselors here at the PTAC. We do it every day. Review capability statements. We'll give you our feedback. Sometimes I may suggest maybe a little small graphic or maybe a small picture or your company's logo just to make your capability stand out. All right. Any additional questions?
Let me have a look.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, just somebody saying, are you sending the slideshow to the audience? Yes, I will do that shortly after we conclude the webinar. And I believe you have a couple of samples of capability statement that I can send them as well. Is that right, Orthenia?
That's correct. Please do. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact your counselor.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. That should be your number one call. We have another question. Who issues the PSC?
Those are, oh, the federal government does. The federal government, they have, just like your next codes, they have descriptions of your PSC, and you can actually go on the website and you can Google product service code to find out what your code is.
Okay. One more question from Chris. When searching for credit card merchant services, how can you make sure they accept government purchase cards?
Well, you have to ask them. When you go to your bank, you can, if you're getting a lot of credit, or you make sure that your banker understands that you're doing government contracts now, and these are the requirements for me to get a small contract, and to ask your bank the procedure for doing that for a business, because it may be different from your personal credit card procedure. So that's a good question for your banker.
Okay, a couple of questions regarding will a PTAC counselor assist me with my capability statement?
Oh, definitely, yes. Most of us have samples that we worked with for years. I know I've collected quite a few over my time at the PTAC, and actually some have been very, very excellent. So your capability statement should be crystal clear. It shouldn't be one where the contracting officer is confused about exactly what you have to offer. It should be clear. Again, it should be like a resume. When you do a resume and you go in for the interview, most of the time when you're being interviewed, your resume is in front of the person that's interviewing you. And if they really like you, they'll invite you back for a second round. But that first impression is very, very important.
Okay, somebody's asking, how often can we contact our counselor? As you can have as many counseling sessions as you need. This is a free service that is paid for by your tax dollars. And as long as the counselor has availability in their schedule, then they're happy to work with you. Will we be having a seminar on business plans? No, we do not do general business advice. You would be advised to go to the Small Business Development Center, and I'm sure they do consultations and classes that cover business plans. So if you just type in Google Maryland SBDC, It'll take you to their website and you can register to become a client with them, just like you do with us. And again, it's free to you. So we encourage you to do that if it's general business advice that you need help with. Let's see, a couple of more questions. For those starting out, in service-based work, what is a professional way to approach a prime for subcontracting work?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So first of all, you want to know the primes that you want to solicit. And if you are, especially I go back to IT, most of those primes have subcontractors that they have been working with for 10, 20 years. So if you are approaching, again, a Booz Allen, you've got to make your capability statement in such a way that it's different or unique from what subcontractors they're already using. So you got to do some research. And one way that you can do a research is to find out through SBA's Small Business Dynamic Search Engine, based on next codes and word description, who your competitors are. And in the capabilities narrative, it will say what that company's capabilities are. So you're going to read that and you're going to say, well, what makes me different from Joe Blow when I approach this prime contractor? That may take a little time and research, but I think it will be well worth your effort, especially if you are looking to do business with a large contractor that does a lot of business with the federal government. And again, your PTAC counselor can help you with that, walk you through that stage, and give you some, I think, good advice on your direct approach. You may want to even have a you may want us to help you with in the interview process so that you're really polished before you go in front of the primes. Remember, primes are looking to make money. They're looking to get contract awards. And if they're going to put you on the contract or put you in the proposal, they want to make sure that you have something to bring to the table as well. Okay.
Okay, that we seem to have run out of questions. I guess you gave them more than enough information. And so with that, could you go to the next couple of slides, Arthenia, so people know how to contact us and how to follow us on social
Exactly. Sure
media?
can. Sure.
So there you see that we do offer free confidential counseling. It's easy to register. The link is in the PowerPoint, which I'll be sending out to you. And also there's our main email as well. Right now, as I said, because of the COVID crisis, we are not doing face-to-face counseling or training. All of that has been transferred to digital formats, such as this webinar or a phone. But that doesn't affect, obviously, the amount of counseling you can get and the quality of the counseling you can receive. So we do encourage you to register with us. All we ask is that your business is registered in the state of Maryland. If your business is not in the state of Maryland, you can go to your local PTAC just by literally typing it into Google, Washington, D.C. PTAC, Virginia PTAC, and the listing will come up there and they'll be able to help you as well. And on the next slide, Arthenia, if you could tell.
Sure. Okay.
So that's just all the information about Denise Warner's our director. We have 5 counselors, and they're all based in different areas or serve different areas of the state. And they have different areas of expertise as well. So Arthenia works especially with veterans as well. So if there are any veterans listening, Arthenia is a great person to give you advice. We also have Mary Lee, and I believe Pam as well is also trained to
Yes.
work with veterans.
Famous.
Yeah. Richard specializes in SBIR, CTR. So based on what you put in your application form on our website, we will assign you to a counselor that can help you the best. And on the final slide, we are active on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So if you use any of those formats, just type in Maryland PTAC and connect with us. We'd be happy to have you join our PTAC family. And that's about it. Any final words, Arthenia, before we wrap this up?
Yes, I would just, and I always advise my clients, please, please, please let me read your capability statement. Let me critique it before you are actually sending it out to a prospective client, or you may be going to a vendor outreach session. I think we'll, maybe by the fall, we'll be back to that point. So let us critique it before you use your capability statement. Please don't have any misspelled words in the capability statement. Again, make sure it's for the audience that you want to impress, the audience that you want to do business with, and make sure that you know the mission statement of the person that you are or agency that you want to do business with. And those are, in my opinion, the important points that I would leave with you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you got a lot out of this. Thank you, Arthenia, and we
Sure.
hope to see you again on another class in the future. Just go to the training calendar on our website to see when there's another webinar coming up that interests you and sign up. Thanks, everybody, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.